Hi everybody, welcome to our week number 6 live stream. I'm so sorry to be like late here. I could not get my internet to let me on. I really hope that the connection stays. It was just not letting me get online, so I'm so sorry for that. But I do see a few of you that are in here with me, which is fantastic. Can you hear? Let's make sure it's working. How about now? Is everything coming through? Okay, it looks good on my end. I see the microphone little thing going. If someone could let me know if you can hear me all right. You can hear me? Okay, awesome. So, glad that it's all working. Again, I'm so sorry to be a few minutes late. I've been just sitting here like refreshing and reloading, but for whatever reason, it just did not want to let me on. So anyway, welcome. Happy week number 6. Let's go to Canvas together. I'll try and keep this short since I know we're a little bit behind, but we are right here, week number 6, with everything due this Sunday night by 11:59 p.m. I just want to make a couple of quick comments about some stuff from last week, and then we will jump into reminders for this week and make sure you're feeling good about everything. Last week we did have that little self-assessment that several of you did, in which it sounds like most of you are feeling really good about your grade in the class and how everything is going. So that makes me really, really happy to hear. The discussion last week, I just want to make one or two quick comments. And so a lot of you picked up on this, but just to make sure that it makes sense. You were reading this little author's this article about the 8 ways screens are ruining your family's life. And what I wanted you to notice was that the author was making a causal claim. So what they were saying is that one thing is causing the other. But in reality, their claim was not justified because they didn't have the right kind of like setup in order to do so. So what it actually was an association claim. The two things were connected or associated with each other. They did not have the ability to infer or claim cause. And you'll see this a lot, right? What we see a lot in quite a few research articles is that people will say X causes Y. When maybe they're associated or connected with each other, they didn't do anything to be able to make that kind of a claim. And so that's what I was really hoping that you would pick up on. And a lot of you did. Some of you were close. You were like, oh, it seems justified, but you weren't sure if they could actually make that claim or not. So just kind of a couple of little comments related to that. Otherwise, a lot of you did a great job of identifying all the different terms and variables that needed to be kind of operationally defined, thinking about those potential third variables and directionality. So a lot of really wonderful things. So really great job on the discussion. And again, a big theme for last week was that correlation versus causation, which we're kind of building on a little bit this week with chapter 3, part 2. So for this week, you're looking at those last like 19 pages or so of chapter 3. So as always, make sure you do those 3 things, or read the pages in the textbook, read through the lecture, and watch the lecture video. So chapter 3, part 2, right? So here we're looking at kind of the other half, right? How do we evaluate frequency claims? How are association claims evaluated and causal claims evaluated? So kind of looking at the next level of what we were looking at last week. On the Beyond the Book page, I have a little bit here about experiments versus correlation, independent and dependent variables, right? This is a big one. How do we identify the independent and dependent variable in the experiment that we're looking at? And then the 4 big validities. So like I said, we're kind of getting into a little bit more core material this week, looking at these 4 different types of validity and so on. So make sure you read through all of this in addition to reading through the chapter in the book. And then we have the terms here that you'll need to know for the exam. Let's see, let me let it load back up here. Right, you also have my lecture video that I made here. So I did go through and kind of lecture on it like I would in a traditional class setting. Hopefully that'll be really helpful. Again, as the content from this week can start to get a little bit confusing. We start off nice and slow, and now we're definitely kind of picking up a little bit of steam. So make sure, as always, you do those 3 things. Read the chapter, read the lecture, watch the lecture video. Discussion number 6. So let's take a look at what we have for that this week. So as always, you have my instructions followed by my video. And so what you're doing here is I have two little studies for you. I want you to read these two short scenarios, and then you're going to answer the same three questions for each one. So study number one, Dr. Stevens and her research assistants were studying the relationship between the level of people's self-esteem and their income levels. They asked participants in their study to report their annual income and then asked them to take a test that measured their level of self-esteem. Results of the study show that as annual income increased, self-esteem scores increased also. So then what you're going to answer, is this a correlational study or an experiment, and explain. If it's a correlational study, what direction is the correlation or association? If it's an experiment, what's the independent variable and the dependent variable? And then from this study, can we conclude that income causes an increase in self-esteem? Why or why not? And then you have another little scenario and the same three questions. So what I'm trying to get you to look at here is, is something a correlation or an experiment? What are the independent and dependent variables if it's an experiment? Or the direction of the association correlation if it's not. And then can we conclude cause and effect? So when you're ready, you'll hit reply, and you can see a few people have already done this. And then don't forget to also reply to a classmate to get those points. Really good practice for the homework assignment that we also have this week, and just kind of identifying whether something is an experiment or a correlation. Really big kind of key thing to be able to do. We also have our second homework assignment this week, which is very kind of connected to that. So this, just like the last one, is worth 25 points. It should be like 1 to 2 pages. Make sure you're following all those kind of standard APA style font and spacing and all that kind of stuff. Also, make sure that you number or label your responses. Make it really easy for me to know what you're answering, just so that I'm not having to try and figure that out. And then you'll obviously upload this right here when you're ready. It's due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So what you'll be doing here is you'll be looking at 5 questions. Okay, so the first one is going to be relating to those 4 different types of validity that were a big part of this week's content. And the last 4 are going to be identifying independent and dependent variables and their conditions, okay, and how they're being operationalized or measured. So number 1, you're going to read through this little short scenario, and then you're going to identify which type of validity each one of these doctors is addressing. And I put here, hint, each doctor is addressing a different type. So Dr. Lopez, Dr. Jefferson, and Dr. Shaw are all talking about this little scenario, and they're each going to make a comment. And so what I want you to do is identify what type of validity each doctor is concerned with, and then just kind of explain. Okay, so that's question number 1. For questions 2 through 5, you're going to be looking at each one of these little scenarios. You're going to identify the independent variable and its levels or conditions, and the dependent variable and how it's being operationalized or measured. So for each one of these, right, what is the independent variable and its levels or conditions, and what is the dependent variable and how is it being measured or operationalized? Everything kind of connecting together this week. So a lot of themes of like independent, dependent variables, 4 different types of validity, hopefully all of it kind of clicking together, a lot of opportunities to practice that this week. So again, make sure you number them, make it really obvious for me. You can write independent variable blank, and then the conditions, dependent variable blank, and how it's being measured or operationalized. So remember that the homeworks are worth 25 points. Definitely spend a little bit of time here. You'll also upload it right here, and that will be how you turn it in. Okay, so those are the 2 really big things for this week. Discussion number 6 and homework assignment number 2. You'll of course have an extra credit question I'll give you in a moment here, and I'll post the recording of this a little bit later. So everything like usual in those ways. I do have a couple of reminders for you really quickly before I do that. So the first one, I wrote this out earlier, so let me just copy and paste it into the chat. So don't forget to take a moment really quickly to double check your subscription status, especially if you're watching this later as a recording, which might be a few more people than normal this week since we were a little bit late. But if you are watching it as a recording, remember that you can still get the extra credit as long as you're subscribed on Twitch. And it does only last for 30 days if you do it for free. So it might be that you need to review it. So just double check that really quickly. The other thing that I have, and I will put this here in the chat. So I'm actually having surgery on my knee on the 22nd, so on Monday. I tore my MCL, ACL, and meniscus back in August, and I'm finally having surgery on it on Monday. So I'm canceling our live stream for next week. I'm not sure what kind of shape I'll be in on Wednesday, and I just don't want to plan for it and then have to cancel on you. So I'm going to put it in the chat. There will be no live stream on Wednesday, September 24th. Right, and we'll pick up the week after, but no live stream next week. So we'll just take 1 week off, and then hopefully I'll be fine and we can pick up after that. If you do have any questions or you're confused about anything, you can of course email me. I'll still be monitoring my email. I wasn't sure what kind of condition I'll be in next week, so I wanted to go ahead and cancel that. Other than that, let me give you the extra credit question for this week and show you how to answer that. So this is the week number 6 Twitch extra credit question. Again, kind of connecting back to everything that we just talked about. So what are the big 4 validities? List and define all 4 of them. What are the big 4 validities? List and define all 4. Okay, so when you're ready to do that, since we're in week 6, you'll click on optional Twitch extra credit number 6 right here. And then up at the top, you can click on start assignment, and it brings up that box where you can type your response. And when you're ready, hit submit. Okay, and this will give you that opportunity to get those 2 points of extra credit. A lot of you have been doing this, which I think is fantastic. Those points will definitely add up. So don't forget that this is available to you. And again, if you're watching this later as a recording, that's totally fine to do as long as you're subscribed on Twitch. Otherwise, make sure you do discussion 6. Don't forget about homework assignment number 2, worth 25 points. So you want to spend a little bit of time there. And the recording of this will be up within the next hour. All right, so I'm so sorry again that I was a few minutes late, like 13 minutes late. That's shameful. I could not get my internet to work, but thankfully it seemed to hold in there for the rest of our time. I hope you all are having a wonderful week. It's supposed to maybe rain tonight and tomorrow, so enjoy our interesting weather. You can see all the clouds starting to build, so fingers crossed. I love the rain. I'm hoping that that actually happens. But otherwise, have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me and still joining me and watching this later as a recording for those of you doing that. I will hang out for a few minutes if you do have any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to minimize my video so I'm not staring at myself. But again, thank you, and I'm sorry. I'm going to put thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I don't know what to expect. I'm a little nervous about it, so I really appreciate the well wishes. Thank you so much. And hopefully it will just be next week and I'll be right back. And you don't have to miss me too much. So thank you. And I will hope to see you all soon.